Hi, and welcome to Extra Serving, an award-winning podcast by Nation's Restaurant News. I am your host, Holly Petrie. Today we're going to be talking about menu innovation. From chicken nuggets to breakfast tacos, chains across the country are rolling out new menu items at rapid speed. Which will be here to stay, and which will be short-lived? Also, what is up with Texas Roadhouse? The brand, which saw record traffic earlier this year, has seen its brand value increase by 56% and is now, allegedly, one of the fastest-growing chains. What does this mean for the industry and Texas Roadhouse? Finally, we are talking about ghost kitchens. They were all the rage for a few years, but the dust has settled and they're proving to be more difficult to get right than any brands were hoping for. Big brands like Wendy's have pulled back their investment from ghost kitchens. So what is the future of ghost kitchens? We will talk about it. This week's guest is Jim Holthauser, CEO of Focus Brands. Now it's time to introduce my coworkers.
I'm Sam Oches, Editor-in-Chief of Nation's Restaurant News.
And I'm Leigh Zinsmeister, Managing Editor of Nation's Restaurant News.
And you guys were just in LA, so tell me a little bit about the trip that I missed out on.
Oh, where to begin? Well, if I sound tired on this episode, it's because I'm working off of about 3.5 hours of sleep, having gotten home in the middle of the night. And don't ever travel with me because I'm cursed. I have had diverted flights and delayed flights and missed connections in my last couple of trips, and I'm just kind of over it. So it's all good. It's all good. I take the bad with the good. And the good was that we got to go out to California for a few days. And indeed, we were in Los Angeles and hosted our road show there, our Create Road Show, and had a blast with a great group of restaurant operators out there. I mean, look, I don't have to tell you that LA is one of the most exciting food scenes in America. You all know this. We just wanted to go there and offer a platform for those folks who are really creating that exciting food service scene to come together, just, take a load off on a Monday night, enjoy some drinks, meet each other. And that's what happened. And we had a blast. And, that show is going on the road. That's why we called it a road show. And we'll be in Austin on April 11th. So if that sounds interesting to you, if you also like free food and drinks and also like interacting with your peers in the industry and networking, making good connections, Austin on April 11th. And then we're coming to New York and Atlanta later this year as well. We'll have some firm dates for that at a later time. I could keep going, but Leanne, give me your impressions of our Los Angeles trip.
Yeah, I had a great time. It was a great event, as you said, lots of connections made. Sam, you had a great panel with some local LA operators that everyone was really into, and to the point that it ran pretty long and you had to cut everybody off from asking questions, which is good. You want the energy to be that way, and that's what these are for, because then everyone with questions got to come up and just talk to the panelists directly, which is probably everyone's preference anyway. Right. So it was a great event. We could have done with some better weather. It rained most of the time we were there. So LA itself gets a lower review, but the roadshow, A+. I'm a fan.
Like I said, I'm cursed. So we went on to Palm Springs. More on that in a second. We went on to Palm Springs after the road show. The desert, and it poured. There's something about me. I don't know what it is, but just stay away for a while. I don't know if I disrupted some force in the universe and something's happening in return. I got nothing for it, but I'm strangely cursed.
It is you, Sam, because I flew into LA on Friday night and Saturday was perfect. Sunny, 75. We hung out at the beach. I got a nice little tan. And then you came in on Sunday and it started raining.
Yeah. Now, Holly's going to be so disappointed in me and Leanne, because when Holly and I travel, Holly and I bounce around cities and we do videos of restaurants. And Leanne and I went to breakfast and we said, nah, we're not going to do that. And instead,
but you know what's fun? It's the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures.
Yep, that's what we did instead.
A+, I'm a fan of that too. I mean, if we want to post all the pictures I took there.
Hey, I got to see the real R2-D2, and that counts for something. But we'll have content about LA at some point. Don't worry.
So much.
That's what you guys were doing while I was working. You were going to a museum.
You know, Holly, it's hard to do what we do, but we do it. We fall on the sword on that one. I
simply am not capable of working, so I did not.
Yeah, that's what we get paid the big bucks for, to go to the museum and at the Academy. All right, so why I went to Palm Springs, though, one of the reasons we were in California is because we are hosting Create in Palm Springs October 1st through 3rd. And we were out there for a site visit, check out the hotel, just be able to envision it. And I have never been to Palm Springs. This is my first trip there. We started talking about doing Create there. I was like, oh, okay, that sounds cool. I guess I've heard good things about Palm Springs. But I mean, I cannot say enough about how excited I am for Create. I get it. I'm biased. This is our event. But our event director, Monique, came back to us and said, we're going to host at the Margaritaville Resort in Palm Springs, which, hey, look, I get it. Jimmy Buffett fans, Margaritaville, nothing against it. Not my generation, but I'm like, whatever, Margaritaville. Huh? But honest to God, this place is awesome. I mean, it is huge. I'll send you guys a picture later I got from the airplane. If you take a picture from the airplane of Palm Springs, right smack dab in the middle, you see this sprawling place, and that's Margaritaville. And 2 pools. We're going to have a huge pool party. It's beautiful. And, of course, October 1st through 3rd. Now, unfortunately, I will be there, so I'll bring the rain. But hopefully it'll at least be warm. Look, I'm going on and on. The point is, what we want to turn Create into really is a retreat, a getaway for restaurant operators. We don't want this to be another conference. We hosted in Denver the last 2 years. I love Denver. Our venue, for a variety of reasons, we were kind of locked into. We tried to create a great experience there. We did. But we wanted to get a venue that felt like a getaway, and this is it, the Margaritaville in Palm Springs. So if you're listening to this and you don't go to many events, or you do go to events and you're like, none of these are really for me, this one will be for you, because you are just going to kick back, relax, enjoy yourself while engaging with people that are in the same boat as you. We have, on the first day, is going to be a day of excursions, like Jeep tours in the mountains, possibly a racetrack excursion as well. We're going to set up all these trips. We're going to have a huge pool party, like I said. I'm also, I can confirm we've booked our first keynoter, and that's Danny Trejo, the legendary actor and also now proprietor of Trejo's Tacos. He's going to be keynoting, so you can come hang out with Danny Trejo. I could go on and on. Suffice it to say, it's going to be a blast. It's going to feel like a vacation and not work. So October 1st through 3rd, save the date. That's Create in Palm Springs. Get yourself there. I don't care if you live in Maine. Fly across the country to Palm Springs, because it will be worth your while. Even though I'm salty that I had 3 hours of sleep last night, I had a blast in Palm Springs. So that's my spiel.
That was a long spiel.
What can I say? I'm good at spiels.
I'll be there. Palm Springs.
Nah, I'm not.
Well, now
I don't want you to come.
Okay, fine. I won't. See how you like that.
Yes, our whole team will be there. And so, I mean, right off the bat, that's worthwhile, right?
Our whole team, or most of our team, will also be at the New York meetup, so definitely come for that, because you'll get to meet a bunch of us, which, I mean, how could that not be fun, meeting a bunch of editors?
Call it a road show, Holly.
No, not in the mood to call it a road show.
Yeah, what are names and
my job.
What are names and brands anyway,
Yeah, who cares? No, definitely come to our road shows. They're super fun. I have been to the one in DC. It was great. It was our first one, so I don't really know what the LA one was like, but it sounds like it was a lot of fun, guys. So definitely show up for our road shows. They're coming to cities across the country, which is really fun, because we get to go to cities that we don't usually get to go to, like Atlanta. I mean, I've never even been to Atlanta. Not like I'm going to the Atlanta event, but I haven't been to Atlanta ever. So, I mean, I feel like it's exciting for people to see us in Atlanta, that we don't really have an NRN presence there. So it's fun.
I'm going to make sure that you never go to Atlanta, Holly. Atlanta is awesome. Maybe I'll be generous and send you to Atlanta, Holly. We'll see.
Probably not. All right, so let's talk about menu innovation. So there have been some really fun, exciting menu innovation stories that have come out this week. We have Dunkin's breakfast tacos. We have KFC introducing chicken nuggets. I mean, there's some really fun things that are happening in the industry. Starbucks is introducing its Oleato drinks to the U.S. So there have been some interesting innovations just this week alone. So I feel like it's worth talking about. What do you guys think about some of these foods? Are you going to try them?
Well, sure. I mean, I'm always game for some of the novelty items. I mean, I guess novelty is not the word for Dunkin's breakfast taco. It is the word for the Oleato. I mean, I think we talked about that before, and my assessment was ew. But I'll try it, sure, just to see if I can confirm it's ew. I'm probably pretty sure it's going to be ew. But I mean, from a broader standpoint and why this is all happening, I mean, menu innovation is a great way to drive traffic, and everybody needs traffic right now. All the brands are trying to stir up some excitement for their menu offerings. They're trying to get their customers to remember that they're there, that they're an option. And what better way than to put out a menu item that is like, oh, wow, that sounds good. I got to go back to Dunkin' and try that because I haven't been to Dunkin' in a while. Also, just a good thing to do in the economy we're in. I mean, all the brands you mentioned, Holly, are QSRs. And, particularly for the QSR segment right now, as the economy is real shaky and as we are on the precipice of economic collapse, you might say. Hopefully not, but let's just say it feels a heck of a lot like 2008 all of a sudden. Boy, that's weird. Value is key, and value is not just discounting. Value is also, here's this new exciting thing at a low price point. And so we saw a lot of menu innovation during the Great Recession. So that's my assessment of just like why this is happening, why we've gotten so much of this news lately is the big brands are really trying to figure out how to drive traffic, get people excited again, come back into the restaurants because they need it right now more than ever.
Yeah, I'm especially intrigued by some of these seem to be like just really good timing in that sense. For example, Dunkin's breakfast tacos is an entirely new menu line. So this isn't something that they just came up with a couple months ago. This I'm sure has been in the works for a long time. Denny's just introduced baked pastas, which they had to buy all their restaurants or their franchisees had to buy new equipment for every single kitchen. Just to be able to add those to the menu. So, I mean, that's been in the works for a couple of years. So that's really interesting to me. I, too, will try anything pretty much once. I'm actually looking forward to trying the Starbucks olive oil drinks because that's just so off the wall that I feel like I have to be a part of it. And they are at the Empire State Building location. So I have that opportunity. Funny, the only one that didn't really draw my attention was the KFC chicken nuggets because that's just so in line with KFC products. But then I saw this quote from their CMO where he called them the chicken nugget that America deserves. And now I feel like I need to try it.
What does that even mean?
Yes.
I don't know, but I need to find out. I love chicken nuggets. I love chicken tenders. And so I feel like I just got to try this one out and see what sets it apart. A
better chicken nugget than, is it the type of meat? I don't know. And I will say I was surprised that their nuggets weren't available nationally already. I guess I should have known that, but that felt like one of those, yeah. Great. But
yeah.
Well, KFC's been doing a lot of menu innovation lately. I mean, they reintroduced the Double Down, right? I got that name right?
Yes. Yeah. Wow. Okay, Leanne's eyes just lit up again.
You always know how to put me in a good mood, Holly.
They introduced wraps. I mean, KFC is doing a lot lately. And I feel like their traffic isn't terrible. It's not like they're it's not like they're trying to come back from these hugely negative numbers. I mean, it's KFC. They're still doing great, but I find it really interesting they're doing all this menu innovation lately or bringing back new items similar to Taco Bell, who's also doing a lot of menu innovation lately. But Taco Bell always kind of does menu innovation. It's kind of their thing. Yeah. But KFC is just doing all of this menu innovation, and I find it really fascinating that this one brand that doesn't really necessarily come to mind the same way as Taco Bell does in terms of menu innovation is now launching all of these things. And so our writer, Alicia Kelso, went to the headquarters and got all of this information and tried a bunch of it all at once. And then it was slowly embargoes lifted and lifted. But she's known about this for a while. And so it kind of all happened at once at the headquarters where she was able to sample all of these things. And then they've slowly come out as the weeks have gone on. And so we kind of knew about the innovation that was happening because it was embargoed, so we were all aware. But I still find it interesting that KFC did all of these things at once, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, you could call it a menu revamp. I think in some ways it's what KFC's been doing. I mean, I think KFC is a good example of more of a tired legacy brand that has been looking for a spark, and something like a broader menu revamp is a spark. I mean, that is, and I think so far there's been a lot of excitement around what they're doing. But again, like, you know, that it's really about traffic. It is about reminding the customer why they should come to your restaurant. Now, one last thing I'll make about the whole menu innovation thing, and Leanne kind of touched on it, was menu innovation is a real tricky subject when it comes to franchises because of the new complexities in production and cooking and kitchen equipment. Especially if you have to add equipment, that is a major investment for a franchise system, because you've got to invest in the equipment financially. You have to find room for it. You got to figure out how to work it into your flow. You got to train your employees how to use it. So when a company buys a new piece of equipment for a menu, that's like, we're in this for the long haul. This is not a limited time offer. This is a big deal. So it's often at the center of disgruntled franchise relations, right? When your franchisee relations are sour, it's often because the franchisor tries to push too much onto the franchisee, such as new investments in equipment or menu items. So that is sort of the pushback against new menu item or new menu development. And maybe we'll run into this later this year or next year, which is when franchisees finally say enough. Like, we get it, we want traffic, but it's a balance you got to strike.
Definitely. I mean, that's something that's a really big issue. And, you know, it's an interesting balance to have to strike between what's new and cool and going to drive traffic versus what's going to be detrimental to franchisees or the business as a whole. I mean, another thing that has been detrimental to businesses is ghost kitchens, because we've seen places like Wendy's experiment with Reef and then pull all the way back. Because we've seen big brands, as Joanna Fantozzi said in her recent feature for us, that, you know, ghost kitchens kind of aren't really working for the big brands. They're working for emerging brands, but the big brands just haven't been able to make ghost kitchens really hit. And it's been a struggle because they've wanted to. They've really wanted to make ghost kitchens work. They thought it'd be a great opportunity for them. But the iron has not struck right.
I was waiting to see if there was a question mark at the end of that. But
yeah, I'm like, is that our cue?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked, Holly. I mean, I think that what it reminds me of is other, like, the one example that comes to mind is about, 10 years ago, when the QSR industry really tried to compete with fast casuals on the sort of high quality front. And they were, McDonald's was rolling out this, their Angus burgers, and Wendy's updated their dining rooms to have fireplaces. And, there was this, the trend at the time was these high quality experiences because the fast casuals were driving that. And after a couple of years, the QSRs figured out, nobody wants us for this. Like, this is not our jam. This is not what we do. And that's, to me, a parallel to what's happening with ghost kitchens, which is they were hot. And for the fact that they were hot, everybody looked into them because it was like, well, I guess this is the trend. I guess this is what we do now. But after employing ghost kitchens, then they realized this is not really our business model. I mean, I think when a lot of these companies invested in ghost kitchens in 2020 and 2021, we all thought the world was going to be completely different coming out of COVID. We thought, nobody's going to eat in a restaurant anymore. Nobody's going to high five and shake hands anymore. We're all going to have a weird new life. But of course, we went back to normal, and that includes going into restaurants. And I think some of the QSRs, especially, or just the big chains in general, just figured out, well, stick to our core competencies, do that really well. We don't need ghost kitchens. Now, that does not mean ghost kitchens are worthless, of course. I mean, ghost kitchens are still a very smart tool for the right restaurant company. They are still very smart for virtual brands. They are still very smart for off-premises service in the right situations. But I think when you're just a brand that says, oh, we do ghost kitchens now because that's what we're supposed to do, you're probably not going to get much for the investment you make. But if you're a smart company that's like, I can strategically employ ghost kitchens to build my off-premises business and drive first party delivery traffic, or whatever it is, and collect data and hone my strategies, like that's when I think you can find real success at a ghost kitchens. And that's why I think generally we'll see it settle into more of a niche, one that will be very successful for some brands that are invested in it. But I think especially with like the Wendy's of the world, it's just like, they tried it because they thought that's what they were supposed to do. They just realized it wasn't for them.
Yeah, I definitely think that smaller, more emerging brands will probably find better, like long-lasting luck with ghost kitchens. It's funny, the two brands that we've seen pull away so far are Wendy's and Applebee's, which I find interesting because, of course, one's QSR, one's casual dining. But these are both massive chains with a lot of ways to make money, and they've both discerned that ghost kitchens are just not worth as much as they were investing into them. I think smaller brands that really have the time to like devote to making a ghost kitchen work for them will see more success that way. Not that Wendy's and Applebee's didn't. It really worked for those brands when they had, when they had to, especially in Applebee's when people couldn't dine in for so long. But now that Sam's right. We're going to see this. Ghost kitchens really exploded there for a couple of years, and now I think we're going to see them settle into something else. Not to say that ghost kitchens are going away or are a bad idea, but just that we're going to see them like settle within the industry and kind of find their place.
You know what I find really interesting is that so at Nimbus Kitchens in Brooklyn, they are a partial ghost kitchen, partial cafe, so you can order the food and eat there, but they also distribute as a ghost kitchen. They have a Little Caesars in there, and apparently the Little Caesars is crushing it. So, I mean, there's that example of one that's really working. It's because there's no Little Caesars around there, and so it's really the only one. And so it's delivering to all these places. And I mean, when we spoke last year to the owner, she was like, Little Caesars is doing absolutely incredible business here. But the rest of the brands in the Ghost Kitchen hybrid are all emerging brands or one-offs. So it's really a tale of two cities.
Well, and I think that Little Caesars is an example of a brand that, and this is certainly no offense to Little Caesars, but that's probably an easier brand execution than Wendy's, for example. So Wendy's trying to execute out of a Reef site has way more complexity than a Little Caesars out of a ghost kitchen. And Little Caesars operating out of that ghost kitchen is also a good example of what I think is one of the smarter uses of a ghost kitchen, which is to say, we're not going to go invest brick and mortar in that city because it's crazy expensive, but we can at least establish a presence through a ghost kitchen. And, so long as you accept that, your revenue will be significantly lower, but your overhead will be significantly lower. If you're just doing it to like tap into the market, build some brand exposure, maybe consider brick and mortar development down the road, like, sure. And I think that's where ghost kitchens do make sense. But like Wendy's Reef investment seemed to be like, oh, this is how we're going to get into urban areas around the country. But yeah, like Wendy's, I mean, that's Wendy's is a big menu and it's a diverse menu. And, Reef has these really small kitchen pods. And I don't know what that relationship looked like. And I'm not trying to knock on Reef, but it's just to say, it's like in my head, I guess I'm not surprised that didn't work out. But it doesn't mean that every brand can't work out in a ghost kitchen.
Right. Little Caesars is also pizza, which has the advantage of being like famously the easiest to deliver food.
Exactly.
And,
yeah.
like highest chance of customer satisfaction, I think, with the food at the end point. So,
I mean, who doesn't love a pizza?
I love a pizza.
I could go for some pizza right now.
We always record at lunchtime. It's terrible.
Every week.
Every single week.
Why do we do this to ourselves?
Well, one brand that's doing really well is Texas Roadhouse. I mean, we already talked about the traffic at Texas Roadhouse, but I mean, now they're seeing this brand value increase by 56%. I mean, that's a lot for a brand value to increase. And one analyst said that, they're now the fastest growing brand, which I mean is shocking because I don't think any of us would have predicted that coming out of any time coming out of last year, coming out of the year before. I don't think any of us would have predicted that Texas Roadhouse would be this giant chain that we're seeing really explode, but it's exploding in a good way. It's a good explosion. It's not like a volcano.
Thank you for clarifying. A volcano, like,
we thought you meant
bomb?
the volcano. It's. I'm excited by this metric, and I think Texas Roadhouse should be too, because we talked about their traffic and how great their traffic was in the first 7 weeks of this year, but this really proves that it's not just a flash in the pan. They didn't like strike gold in early January only for it to taper off, or we don't have those numbers yet, but this shows that Texas Roadhouse has consistently been killing it, which, as you said, is surprising and difficult for a casual dining chain in the last, I think they said, 5 years. It's really exploded in value, and 3 of those have not been great for casual dining chains.
To say the least.
I mean, to really understate things here. Sam, I don't even know what to do with that question. It's definitely something is setting Texas Roadhouse apart, because the second and third chains on this list are Jollibee and Popeyes, which are both, limited service brands. And so Texas Roadhouse is really hitting on something here, and I think that's great.
Do you know what those 3 brands, though, right there all say to me, and why I think they're so valuable? I mean, it's the intense customer loyalty and dedication, right? All those brands have this very distinct fan base because they have a very distinct brand. And I think that's the main takeaway from this, which is just that more than probably any other casual dining brand, Texas Roadhouse just occupies this place, I think, in people's lifestyle, we'll call it. And they're committed to it. And I know that, for a fact, Texas Roadhouse, my hometown, is one of the nicest restaurants. I mean, it's, in some of these small communities across America, that's the place to go for a nice steak dinner. And so the loyalty among customers to go to Texas Roadhouse for that experience, it's going to make, it's going to make you a much more valuable brand. Now, they prove it in their operations too. They're driving revenue. They were the first real casual brand to, recover from the pandemic and just slam on the accelerator. And, that's going to make for a successful brand. But when you have that sort of extra something, that lightning in a bottle, that is really hard to capture in that sort of brand loyalty or your customer loyalty, that's the extra lever they get that not a lot of brands do.
Well, I think it's interesting that we're seeing kind of the fruits of their labor right now, because they've had this brand loyalty for a long time. I mean, this is not new that they've had this customer loyalty really devoted to them. They've always had a devoted fan base. And I think now we're just seeing the fact that they are taking that and growing with it and moving forward and saying, we're going to grow. We're ready to grow. We have our fan base. We're ready to expand. And I think that that's really important, because they're taking what they already have, they're lightning in a bottle, as you said, Sam, and they're unleashing it.
Sharing it with the world.
They're having a lightning storm.
Headline: next Texas Roadhouse story.
Lightning in a bottle turns into a lightning storm.
We've got lightning storms. We've got volcanoes. This is a very exciting podcast.
we do words for a living.
We totally do.
You know what? I haven't used the word interesting a lot, so I feel like we're really crushing it.
Interesting.
That's like my word of the moment, is interesting. So I'm really trying to limit my use of it, so it's not really front and center all the time.
It's brave.
I think I'm doing a great job.
Brave. Thanks, Holly.
Thank you. I really do feel like I am making a brave move here. All right, so guys, you know what? I feel like we should bring back the happy news segment.
Ooh. Okay.
Right?
Let's
happy
see if...
news.
Oh, boy.
Happy news.
I forgot the song.
Sam already looked like he was ready to hop off. And
I know.
started singing.
And now I'm like, can I summon anything happy out of, my 3 hour of sleep brain? We'll see.
Yes, come on. You can summon something happy. Summon the happy gods.
I mean, I already shared something happy, which was around Create in Palm Springs. I'm happy that the Margaritaville Palm Springs is an awesome hotel that, and my happy moment of Zen of the week was that despite the rain showers, at like 3:00 in the afternoon in Palm Springs the other day, the sun came out, and those of you in California are just probably rolling your eyes at me saying this, but as an East Coaster, I just have to say how mesmerized I was by this fact. There were people swimming in the swimming pool, surrounded by palm trees, with snow-capped mountains behind them. I have the pictures to prove this. It blew my mind. I'm like, what is this place? I love California because I just think it's such a beautiful place, but this was such a... Anyway, and when that sun came out, myself and a couple of our colleagues got a bottle of wine, sat in a cabana poolside. It was like, okay, this is it right here. And you can have that experience at Create October 1st.
And hopefully Margaritaville serves us margaritas, which would really make Leanne and I happy.
It's kind of their thing.
I'm just putting it out
I would hope so. What with the name Margaritaville?
Actually, I will tell you, I'll slip this, just a little teaser. It will be the first thing you get when you come to Create is a margarita. When you come to the registration table, there will be one in your hand.
You should have led with that.
Yeah, that should have been.
We should have put that at the beginning of the podcast.
That's our marketing campaign right there.
Now I'll be there. I was undecided. But now I'll be there.
Okay, great. I'm glad I persuaded you.
Yes, it was really the margaritas that did it. Leanne, what's your happy moment of the week?
I had brunch on Sunday with a bunch of my friends in LA at a place called Manhattan Beach Post. And I ate a cinnamon roll the size of my face. And that made me very happy.
Oh, yeah. And it was good?
It was delicious.
Oh,
it was delicious. I was with good friends. It was a little drizzly, but we survived. And yeah, it was just a lovely cap on the fun part of my trip before the work part started. Because I worked so hard for that day and a half with Sam.
I was going to say, having spent a day and a half with you, I'm a little offended that I was not a part of that fun part. But geez, thank you, Leanne. Glad to know that. Yeah, the
museum that you went to instead of doing work wasn't the fun part?
That was also fun. Okay, fine. Bonus fun thing. Sam and I went to the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures on Monday instead of doing anything related to restaurants.
Yep. And I got to see R2-D2.
Great museum. Sam got to see R2-D2. There were all kinds of cool exhibits. And yes, that also made me happy.
Versus if I was there, Sam and I would have been going to 5 restaurants and filming videos.
He did say that. He was like, if Holly was here, we'd be working. And I was like, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Just always trying to squeeze the work in.
You would have missed the museum.
I wouldn't have really cared. I'm not into movies. So
Interesting.
That's that. My happy moment is that on Saturday, it was beautiful here. Gorgeous in New York. And I just got to walk around and enjoy the sunshine. And it was lovely. And I had an interview last week where someone couldn't see me because it was so sunny in my apartment. And I was like, that is perfection. So, right? They were like, I can't even see you. And I was like, I'll move. But they were like, isn't it beautiful and sunny here in New York? And I was like, it's beautiful and sunny here in New York. That's why you can't see me. And so that was my happy moment of the week, was the sunshine in New York. And it was beautiful outside. I think it was probably almost the same temperature as in LA. I think it was like 60 degrees.
Probably. Yeah. It was like closer to 70 in LA on Saturday, but the rest of the weekend, not so much. And now it's like cold and rainy and dreary here in New York. So
yeah, you brought that back with you, Leanne.
I mean, I've been back for a couple days. Yesterday was lovely in New York.
Yesterday was lovely. I
took a nice long walk yesterday.
We're talking about weather on a podcast, guys. Let's land this airplane.
Sam is done. Yeah, because you have such good luck with airplanes, Sam.
I know, right? Anyway.
Like my airplane noise, I feel like that was really special.
Yeah,
that's when you know we've jumped the shark. Let's do this, Holly.
Which I now understand.
Close it out.
All right, so I'm going to throw it over to Joanna Fantozzi and her interview with Jim Holthauser, the CEO of Focus Brands. But I'm going to thank you guys for joining me first.
Thanks, Holly.
Thanks, Holly.
So I guess just to start off with, can you tell me a bit about how Focus Brands 2022 went?
We had a fantastic year, really, just across the board. Every one of our lines of business, our 7 brands, our international group, our licensing, our product licensing group, honestly, there really wasn't a weak link last year. So, and the way I think about that, Joanna, I think there were several things that were working in our favor. I mean, first, the thing that, in the franchising business, while inflation is never a good thing long-term for anybody, because of the way franchising works, we get paid off the top, right? As our owners take more price, right? I mean, you're getting your same percentage of basically a higher price. And so that helped a little bit, but that doesn't explain why Focus did so well, because every company is out there taking price, right? And it was in the results were, as you know, in your line of work, it's a mixed bag. So, I've been here for 3 years now. We have really been re-engineering Focus Brands to be a lot more. We've been making big investments in supply chain. We've been making huge investments in digital and loyalty. We have been upgrading talent. We're restructuring the way work gets done. It's been a ton of change here. And the way I like to think about the 22 is, that tree started bearing fruit, and so and kind of the proof point for me is I can look at our traffic trends, which were positive last year. So we saw positive traffic literally in just about every brand we have. The mall-based brands, which we can get into if you want, we're growing another 4 or 5% in their overall traffic. So and the reason we're growing traffic is we've greatly improved our marketing capabilities in our company. We have, when I look at paid media in this portfolio in 22 versus 21, we grew it by 153%. So we're able to actually talk to customers a lot more, frequently. We've now put a lot more scaffolding around marketing. So everything is now being measured, right? And for every campaign is, because I want to know, not just to hold people accountable, but what I want to know is, we have to learn what's working, what's not. Let's stop what doesn't work very well, and let's keep going and do more of what does work, right? We've made changes to how we buy media. In a simple process change like that makes a world of difference, because in the past, I had 8 different lines of businesses going out and negotiating their own ads. I mean, their own media buys. Well, the problem is, this is a collection of small and mid-cap brands by and large. Nobody has an ad budget big enough and enough muscle to flex to really command the best rates in the market. But if you go as a block, all of a sudden you start qualifying for more attractive rates. You get more free placements. Your media investment can go a lot further. So, I don't want to take you too far down that rabbit hole unless that's where you want to go. But those are some of the changes we've been making, right? That are helping us drive traffic and improve the overall performance story. I touched on let's talk about digital and loyalty. We signed up another 4 million members in our loyalty programs last year. So we're up to about 17 million across the portfolio. And that's important. We now have 4 million more people we can develop relationships with and talk to. And we're getting really good about putting the right kind of offers at the right time in front of customers and inducing them to come into our stores. We turned on new capabilities like what we call suggestive selling. You could go on the website, and based on the algorithm running underneath the website, based on everything we know about you and seasonality, right? We're going to make a bet. We're going to put an offer in front of you that we think Joanna is going to buy. So we wanted to know that you want guacamole before you even know it, right? Taylor over here may get a completely different offer, right? Based upon her history and her own circumstances. So we're turning on a lot more capabilities, more customers, better, more impactful marketing. So all of this, at the end of the day, help our domestic brands, I think, just achieve record levels of performance. You know this too. We've got about 25% of our business that's outside of the U.S. our international business just crushed it last year. It's growing so well. Partly that was a lot of the markets in a lot of the markets we're in, those were like the COVID recovery years. A lot of markets like Thailand, Saudi Arabia, Korea, Japan, they were about a year behind the US in terms of their recovery. But last year we also opened up our support center in Costa Rica. So one of the things you may realize, I don't think that the restaurant industry has done a particularly good job of figuring out how do you support restaurants internationally. Right? We sell franchises, but the ability to educate and support, right, train your international franchisees is much more difficult. And at the end of the day, it just gets down to economics, right? If I send someone to visit our 2 Annie Ann stores in Guam, right, that plane ticket basically costs me 2 years worth of profit. But what if I could visit these stores basically using Zoom or some kind of FaceTime technology? So that's what we do today with all of our international stores, right? We visit them in some cases quarterly. We do it in the time zone. We do it in their language, right? And they basically get training and consultations from us about 4 times a year. That was a game changer. And so what we're seeing is that the stores that get this support from Costa Rica versus those who don't, there's about a 14% change in or difference in overall AUV growth. So in addition, again, to marketing, new capabilities, investments, I will add kind of new uses of technology. So all these things kind of together I think are really helping underpin these brands with power that they wouldn't have had 3 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to ask a little bit more color on some of those topics, but it certainly sounds to me overall that it's really about improving brand recognition, digital footprint, and kind of getting more eyeballs in front of like Cinnabon, Annie Ann's, Carvel, et cetera.
Yep. It's a big part of it. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And we've been following your journey, Focus Brands journey over the past several years and kind of those changes that you've been implementing. And I know that one of the highlights of 2022 was bringing that supply chain back in house. So what difference did that make to kind of your bottom line, especially in today's economy?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's that supply chain, that is really the most significant way you bring value to your owners in this industry, as you know, right? And I would say we brought value in lots of different ways. We're, just because the way we're structured, we're supporting the franchisees a lot better. We've invested in technology, so we really have a nice end-to-end view of the entire supply chain. So if we see a glitch early on, right, it gives us time then to go to plan B. So our restaurants aren't without food and supplies, right? And really the benefit of bringing the supply chain or the procurement part of this in-house is that we now have the relationships directly, right, with these manufacturers. And that was a little bit of a weak point for Focus, I think, as we went into the pandemic, because the relationships were with a third party, not with us. And had those relationships been established and strong, well, guess what? I mean, we probably would have had different service experiences than we did. So I said, overall, I think that this is working really well. Our franchisees are very complimentary. I'm so grateful we re-engineered our supply chain when we did, because I think even had we waited another year with in a period of 9% inflation, it could have been really tough for our owners. So I'm really glad we did this work early on, and it's already paying dividends. The other thing I would say that we're doing in supply chain, Joanna, is for the first time ever, I've got 7 brands now working collaboratively behind the scenes. We had never done that, and so obviously, you don't mess with unique signature items in your restaurants, and you don't jeopardize your own unique taste profiles and things like that. But do we really need 7 different approaches to buying straws and 7 different philosophies about whether you put a logo on a napkin, right? Or should we standardize cup sizes? And so a lot of those things we're doing right now, which all of which are helping to lower, right, the overall unit cost for lots and lots of items that we use in our restaurants. We've also established an indirect spend function. This isn't glamorous, it's not really sexy, but again, you build profit 10 basis points at a time. And so we're now using the scale and of focus brands, and we're putting options on the shelf for our franchisees. So you need a waste management contract. Okay, here's one that's available to you, right? If you can get something better in the local market, do that. But if this makes sense, use the focus program. We're doing the same thing with uniforms and credit card processing fees and just all the various things that go into all these costs that go in that are outside of typical supply chain, right? That really can improve an owner's bottom line. So there was a lot done as we re-engineer our own supply chain function. And again, I think this will make us a stronger franchisor, and in time, this will make our owners a lot more money. So.
Yeah, for sure. I know we've been talking a lot about the co-branding and brand synergy efforts that you guys have really ramped up over the past several years.
Yep.
And it certainly sounds like what you're talking about, that there were some kind of maybe surprising benefits to making sure that the brands are kind of all working in sync.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. And I really feel like we've got the exact right model, because we have dedicated brand teams, because I want people whose job it is to protect the things that make each brand unique, right? We're a brand management company. We're not in the business of homogenizing these very distinctive brands. At the same time, probably 90% of the decisions that you make have absolutely nothing to do with brand uniqueness or brand distinctiveness, right? And that's your opportunity, right, to look for one, what we call a one focus way internally, right? And whereas where we were 3 years ago, every system, every process, every investment had to be made 7 different times. That's not how we work today, right? We find one way, right, and then we scale it across 7 brands. So which if you want to go down the path of talking digital for a minute, that's just a great example. When I got here, the good news is all of our brands had websites and apps. They were okay, they weren't great, but every brand was basically going out and negotiating with a third party. Build me an app, build me a website. Well, every time you do that, it's $1 million. Right? It's extremely expensive. Well, today, because we basically build a platform, then we replicate that platform 7 different times. So think of it of a house that's built once, right? You replicate that house, and the only difference really is the way it's decorated, right? So going forward, all of our brands will have basically the same app and website. Now, to the customers, it says Moe's, it says Schlotzsky's, it says Cinnabon. The code is the same. Logos are different, menus are different, the language and the colors will be different, right? But it's just a very, very efficient way of doing digital in a portfolio company, and we can now give our brands services and quality of websites and apps that for a lot less money than we could just 3 years ago. So that's a really good example of like a one focus way opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. It just makes more sense. It's easier for you guys, more efficient, et cetera. And I mean, it's not just synergy in the supply chain and digital. It's also, we're pretty excited to hear about the first Cinnabon Swirl opening. Could you tell our listeners kind of what that is and what it's going to be?
Yeah. So, kind of a common strategy, if you will, that we employ here at Focus is called dual branding. So a lot of times we will pair our brands together, say in a street side location scenario. So the most popular would be like a Jamba and Annie Ann's, putting those together, or an Annie Ann's and a Cinnabon. That's another very popular one. The third one that basically, and actually we heard from our customers, is, well, why wouldn't you put Carvel and Cinnabon together? And so, so what Swirl is, it's not just a building where you can get Carvel soft serve ice cream, or you can get a great cinnamon roll, right? It's everything in the middle, right? And so what we've done is we've taken ice cream, we've taken Cinnabon kind of inspired and infused products, and we've put those together to create something really, unique. So think of an ice cream sandwich, and where the two cookie ends, they're basically Cinnabon cookies with Carvel ice cream in the middle. Or you can think of a giant, like a giant waffle cone, right? That's basically a Cinnabon. That's Cinnabon inspired product, right? That's filled with soft serve ice cream. So, so that tested off the charts with consumers, and so I would say, so obviously that's one good indication. The other indication you need to make sure is that your franchisees are excited about it, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to build it and operate it and own it and everything else, right? And to say that our franchisees have been supportive and enthusiastic, I think would be an understatement. We're not having any problem with owners standing up and saying, "Gosh, I'd love to try this for you. I'd like to test it and help you figure it out." So the first Cinnabon Swirl Swirl will open late summer, early fall this year, and we hope to have a good 2 to 4 open in 2023. So this has been something that's been in the works for about the last year and a half. We've talked to you a little bit about it. Hopefully, maybe if you haven't, we'll make sure you can sample some of these products. But they're delightful, and I think customers are going to love them.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that you guys are going to be opening one of those soon by me in New York, because that sounds amazing. I really want a Cinnabon ice cream sandwich now.
We'll figure it out.
And so besides kind of these new opportunities, they're happening, kind of the digital scope that you guys are broadening, what are your goals for 2023, and how would you say kind of your strategy moving forward is kind of evolving from moving forward?
You know what? Last year we developed something that we call grade A brand management principles. And so this may sound maybe a little bit academic, but the last thing I want is to have 7 brands with 7 different philosophies, 7 different approaches. That's not how you do it, because every time a leader either comes in or leaves the brand, then all of a sudden there's a change in direction. That's not what good brand management looks like. So we have spelled out our principles and our approaches to how brands are run, and those are being built. And I'll just give an example. One of our principles is that grade A brand management companies are maniacal about measurement. We measure everything before, during, and after, right? Well, we've given our brands the tools to do that. And simply because that's how you get smart. That's how you learn. It's how you stay really close to the customer. That's how you know what works and what doesn't work. When things don't work, you pivot and you change course. And I'm not sure that was deeply embedded enough 3 years ago, partly because we didn't have the tools. We have the tools and the expertise in the company to do things like that now. So part of our strategy is to continue to build that out. Part of the strategy is we're 1 year into our 5-year digital and loyalty journey, right? So this is year 2. We'll sign up another 4.2 million customers. We'll turn more of our brands, some of these new capabilities with suggestive selling, customer lifetime value. All those will be turned on for more of our brands this year. Our supply chain investment continues to mature. We have added new pricing capabilities and tools for our brands. And one of the things that, I hope your listeners will appreciate is, just because I create the best darn pricing tool in the world doesn't mean everybody knows how to use it, right? That's the hard work. It's weaving that into the fabric of all of our brands and our way of doing business. So I would say for our brands, it's the continuation of our digital and loyalty strategy. It's incorporating new tools like guest focus and pricing. It's growing our grade A brand management principles, and We continue to grow our brands aggressively around the world. Jamba is the brand that really has, I think, has incredible runway. So the 3 stars outside of the U.S. would be NRN, Cinnabon, and Jamba. So that'll be still relatively new this year, and our licensing business just continues to explode. We now have over 162 discrete products now that are either Cinnabon or NRNs or Carvel inspired that you can find in Kroger's and Walmart's and Target's and on harryanddavid.com, and even some of our competitors' menus, right? Like Taco Bell and Pizza Hut. So yeah, so a lot of this is a continuation and a maturation of some of the work that we started over the last 3 years.
Great. I think that's a great summary. And I think then that's all the questions I have then, Jim. Thanks so much for talking to me today and getting us caught up on Focus.
You're so welcome. Thanks for all your interest in your sport. Appreciate it a lot.